I will start by calling this meeting to order. So welcome everybody who is joining us here today at the Government Center, and for all of those that are watching on TV or YouTube or Facebook or however you participate with us. We will start with introductions from the dais, and I will start to my left.
Terry Hagler-Gray, Senior Assistant City Attorney.
Victoria Watlinson, District 3.
Dante Anderson, District 1.
Todd Picard, District 6.
Ed Driggs, District 7.
Malcolm Graham, District 2.
Braxton Winston, Mayor Pro Tem.
Good evening, LaWanna Mayfield, Council Member at Large.
Good evening, Renee Johnson, and I'm honored to represent District 4.
Good evening, everyone. James Mitchell at large.
Julie Tons, Deputy City Clerk.
Liz Babson, Assistant City Manager.
Thank you very much. We will begin our meeting with an invocation, which is an expression and inspiration, followed by our Pledge of Allegiance. The invocation by the council member is intended to solemnize our proceedings. We celebrate the religious diversity of our community, including those without a religious faith. Tonight, Council Member Johnson will give our invocation.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, as we greet this new day, we humbly seek your guidance and your grace. Bless us with the wisdom to make the right choices for our city, the strength to face the challenges, and compassion for all. Let our actions reflect your love and light, and may your peace fill our hearts. We ask these things. Amen.
Amen.
Please stand if you're able to. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty
and justice for all.
Next up, we will go through a explanation of our zoning process. The process begins with applications that are submitted to our planning staff for review. There are two types of cases on our agenda, those cases that are up for decision and those that are up for a public hearing. Decision on cases for which a public hearing was previously held will have no further public comment. For hearings, if you are here or you wish to speak to that petition, you're asked to see our clerk before the start of that hearing. So right now would be a good time. Then staff will have a presentation, which there is no time limit on. After staff gives their presentation, the petitioner and those in favor will get 3 minutes combined to present their case to council, unless there are opponents signed up to speak or if our staff is in opposition. If either one of those two conditions occur, the petitioner gets 10 minutes, the opponent gets 10 minutes combined, and then the petitioner will get a 2-minute rebuttal. If no one is opposed or signed up to speak, staff provides a short presentation, the public hearing is closed, and the next public hearing is opened. After tonight, the petition will go to the Zoning Committee of the Planning Commission for review and recommendation. Now I would like to let the Zoning Committee Chair introduce himself and city members.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. My name is Douglas Welton. I serve as the chairman of the Zoning Committee of the Planning Commission. Allow me to introduce my fellow committee members. With me tonight will be Will Russell, Shauna Neely, Rick Winokur, Terry Lansdell, Rebecca Wilden, and Clayton Seeley. The Zoning Committee will meet on Tuesday, October 31st at 5:30 here at the Government Center. At that meeting, the Zoning Committee will discuss and make recommendations on the petitions that have a public hearing here tonight. The public is welcome to that meeting, but please note it is not of the public hearing that is being held here tonight. Prior to that meeting, you are welcome to contact us and provide input. You can find our contact information and information on each petition at the city's website at charlotteplanning.org. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, it is yours.
Thank you very much. So next, we will move on to the section where we do our deferrals and withdrawals. Mr. Patton, would you like to, all of the deferrals and withdrawals can be taken in one motion. So, Mr. Patton, will you please read into the record those petitions that are up for withdrawal deferral?
Certainly. So we do have a handful of decisions requesting a deferral to November 20th, our next zoning meeting. So that starts with item number 13, 2022-134 by Musa Muhammad II. Item 14, 2028 by Third and Urban LLC. Item 15, 2022-193 by the Brown Group. Item 16, 2022-161 by the Pulte Group. Item 19, 2022-048 by Tribute Companies Incorporated. And item 21, 2022-147 South Park Towers Property Company LLC. And then finally, for decisions, item 23, which is petition 2023-013 by Toll Brothers Apartment Living. Moving on to hearings, we start with item number 25, petition 2021-277 by Bildom LLC. Item 26, 2023-033 by CRD Elizabeth LLC. Item 27, 2023-064 by South End Walk LLC. Item 28, 2023-037 by Shinville Ridge Partners LLC / Courtney Sloan. Item 30, 2023-033 by the Keith Corporation, and item 33, which is petition 2023-045 by Grubb Properties. Those are all hearings. Also, all requesting a deferral till November 20th, 2023. Thank you.
I will make a motion to approve those withdrawals and deferrals.
Second.
We have a motion that's been made and properly seconded. Do we have any discussion of that motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed, please raise your hand. Seeing none, that is unanimous. So we will move on to the decisions portion of our agenda. We will start with our consent agenda items. Rezoning petition items number 3 through number 12 may be considered in one motion, except for those items pulled by a council member. Please note that in order for petitions to make it onto our consent agenda, they must meet the following criteria. They have had no public opposition to the petition at our hearing. The zoning committee recommends approval, and there are no changes after the zoning committee's recommendation, and staff also recommends approval of the petition. Are there any consent agenda items council would like to pull for questions, comments, or a separate vote?
Yes.
Ms. Watlington?
6, 8, and 10, please.
Which one?
6, 8, and 10.
6,
Thank you.
8, and 10. Any others?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
3, 4, 7, and 12.
3, 4, 7, and 12. Any others?
How about just vote against the consent agenda?
Okay. I will make a motion to approve the following petitions and to adopt the zoning committee's statement of consistency for each of these petitions as they appear in our agenda as the council's own. Item number 5, petition 2022-066. Item number 9, petition 2023-035 by Alliance Industrial Partners, LLC. And item number 11, petition 2023-051 by Portman Holdings. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion that's been made and properly second. Any discussion of said motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed, please raise your hand. Seeing none, that is unanimous. We will move on to item number 3, rezoning petition 2023-014 by Charlotte Truck Center Incorporated, located on approximately 1.29 acres on the south side of Cannon Avenue, east of North Graham Street and north of Interstate 85 in Council District 1, Ms. Anderson's district. The current zoning is N1B, Neighborhood 1B, and the proposed zoning is B2CD, General Business Conditional. The zoning committee voted 7-0 to recommend approval of this petition, and staff recommends approval of this petition. I'll make a motion to approve this petition and adopt the consistency statement as our own.
Second.
The motion has been made and properly second. Any discussion?
Ms.
Johnson?
I just had a question. Is this the truck parking that we talked about last month?
This particular petition is expanding the parking area for the operations of the truck center. I do not believe that it is going to be for trucks themselves. It would be for the employees and staff that work on site, but it will not be for parking of heavy trucks.
This particular petition is for the extension of a parking lot of a business that creates the actual trucks and maintains those trucks, not the trailer. And so they're extending the parking lot, and they're actually going to have, adding a sidewalk and a barrier of green space as well for parking, but not of trucks for their employees. So it doesn't address the issue of truck parking at all.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor? There's been a motion that's been made and properly second. All in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed, please raise your hand. That is unanimous in favor. We'll move on to item number 4.
Close just then? Is that a motion to approve or to close?
I made the motion to approve. I made the motion to approve. There's no public hearing.
Dante seconded.
Right. Okay.
We'll move on to agenda item number 4, rezoning petition 2022-005 by Trebek Properties Incorporated, located on approximately 2.97 acres on the west side of West W.T. Harris Boulevard, south of Mount Holly Huntersville Road, and north of Interstate 485 in Council District 4, Ms. Johnson's district. The current zoning is NS Neighborhood Services, and the proposed zoning is NS SPA Neighborhood Services with a site plan amendment. The zoning committee voted 6-1 to recommend approval of this petition, and staff recommends approval of this petition. Do I have a motion to approve the petition and adopt the zoning committee's, consistency statement as our own?
So moved.
Second.
Been a motion that's been made and properly second. Any discussion of that motion?
Yeah.
Ms. Johnson?
I just had a question for staff about this petition. According to my understanding, this is a legal non-conforming use already, and we're just rezoning this due to a technicality because of the 2040 plan, is that correct?
That's a later petition in our agenda. This is for the establishment of a EDE with a drive-through.
Oh, okay, that's right. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's
Okay, so
currently vacant, was already entitled for, I believe, multifamily. They are changing those entitlements to allow for retail uses.
Okay, all right. That's all I wanted.
Been a motion that's been made and properly second. All in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed, please raise your hand. Seeing none, that is unanimous. We'll move on to, item number 6. Rezoning petition 2022-218 by Madam E. Homes, located on approximately 15.93 acres on the west side of Millhaven Lane, south of Juniper Drive, and east of Interstate 77 in Council District 2, Mr. Graham's district. The current zoning is N1B, Neighborhood 1B, and the proposed zoning is R8MF, single-family residential conditional. The zoning committee voted 7-0 to recommend approval of this petition, and staff recommends approval of this petition. Is there a motion to approve the petition and adopt the zoning committee statement of consistency as it appears in our agendas and on the screen as the council's own?
Second.
There's been a motion that's been made and properly second. Graham made the motion. Any discussion? Ms. Watlington?
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that I was clear about the traffic patterns, because I noticed that a couple of what seem to be routes coming out of this development are going into people's homes. So I wanted to understand what the thought process was around there. I see the 20 trips going up to 640. I realize it's 20 less than the entitlement, but just the map, I want to make sure I understand what the plan is future forward.
Sure, they've got connections proposed to Meadow Knoll Drive, which is an existing road. They'll have a stub to the north if there's any redevelopment of those parcels that front along Juniper that could potentially provide a connection over time up to Juniper Drive, and then the final connection is to Millhaven Lane. There's also a stub to some vacant property that's kind of landlocked back off Juniper Drive as well. So 2 potential future stubs, and then 2 connections, one to existing Meadow Knoll Drive and one to existing Millhaven Lane.
And given that these are stubs that would generally only be cul-de-sacs really, given what's left there to develop, the existing pass-through then, even if those other stubs weren't there, is sufficient?
Can you repeat that?
What I'm trying to say is that if there are two stubs that, based on what's remaining here that's unbuilt, will essentially just be cul-de-sacs, they're not going to be pass-through roads unless you raise those houses. I want to know if the connection that was made between Meadow Knoll and Millhaven Lane is sufficient for the expected volume increase.
It should be sufficient. Not sure what the volumes are on Meadow Knoll. Obviously, it's a residential street, but it should be sufficient. And Millhaven would be the main point of access, probably providing the most direct point of ingress and egress out of the site, since that gets you over to Statesville a little more directly. I would envision Meadow Knoll being a little bit more of a potentially used road, not as probably as much, because it does take a little bit of a roundabout way to get over to either Juniper or down to Cindy Lane. So that would be more of probably a secondary point of ingress egress, and the primary one would be off Millhaven.
Okay, thank you.
And the other stubs will both have approved fire turnarounds. They won't, so one will have more of a hammerhead, so fire trucks can get in and back out, and the other stub has enough radius to back in and out of there, so.
That it? Further questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed, please raise your hand. That is unanimous. Thank you very much. We'll move on to item number 7, rezoning petition 20 to the north side of Ridge Road, south of Mallard Creek Road, and east of 485. In Council District 4, Ms. Johnson's district. The current zoning is N1A Neighborhood 1A, CC Commercial Center, Institutional, and Light Industrial Conditional. The proposed zoning is I1CD Light Industrial Conditional and MX1 Mixed Use with 5-year vested rights. The Zoning Committee voted 7-0 to recommend approval of this petition, and staff recommends approval of this petition. Do I have a motion to approve the petition and adopt the Zoning Committee's statement of consistency as it appears in our agendas and on the screen as the council's own?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
There's been a motion that's been made and properly second. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a comment
Ms.
on
Johnson?
this one. Thank you. I wanted to make sure that the residents knew that, that there was some discussion about this. This is 83 acres in District 4, and this is pretty much a technicality for a previously approved large petition. And I'm pulling that up right now. Yeah, it's just making changes to a previously approved petition 2021-028. So this will create a better alignment and distribution of the allowed residential and non-residential uses. So I just wanted to get that on the record.
Thank you very much. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Any opposed, please raise your hand. That is unanimous. We move on to item number 8. Rezoning petition 2023-031 by Crescent Communities LLC, located on approximately 2.766 acres on the west side of South Tryon Street, north side of Carson Boulevard, and east side of Winifred Street in Council District 2, Mr. Graham's district. The current zoning is UC Urban Core, and the proposed zoning is UMUDO Uptown Mixed Use District with an option. The Zoning Committee voted 6-1 to recommend approval of this petition, and staff recommends approval of this petition upon resolution of outstanding issues related to transportation. Is there a motion to approve the petition and adopt the Zoning Committee's statement of consistency as it appears in our agendas and on the screen as the council's own?
Just a quick point of clarification. The outstanding issues have been addressed.
Thank you very much. So
Second.
been a motion that's been made and properly seconded. Any questions or comments on this? Ms. Watlington?
Yes, that was one of the questions, well, that was the question that I had. I noticed the transportation summary said that there were some outstanding uses that needed to be hashed out in order to.
Yeah, we've gotten that addressed. It actually was addressed at time of printing. I just must have missed in the agenda print to change that recommendation, but it is recommended in the staff analysis as just straight approval. Or it shows them being addressed, but the analysis didn't update that part of the recommendation. But yeah, everything's been squared away. They did work with CDOT to talk through what that final item was. Everybody's satisfied on all ends, so everything's marked as addressed, but my apologies for not updating the recommendation accordingly.
Okay, and just curious, to go from 40 trips to 6,700 trips.
Yeah, so there was a traffic study that was done. So this project's a little bit unique. It went through permitting and actually received permits for construction. Part of that process involved a transportation study and traffic study that was approved by all parties. And so they've since come back to ask for some relief on a few items from a design standpoint. That's what the optional provisions are. But all the traffic's been captured and traffic study's been reviewed and approved and signed off on. So you see that large number, but it has been mitigated through that study.
And just, if you've got it, what should the community expect in terms of traffic improvements on this one?
That's a question I would probably have to look over to our colleagues in CDOT for some clarification on, but we can have them come up and try to get some of that info for you.
That'd be great.
Scoot my stuff anyway.
So the primary improvements for this development included were a traffic signal on the rear of the site and some additional pedestrian crossings, as well as upgrading of the cross-section along their frontage along Tryon. And we worked extensively with the Riverside development across the street to update the cross-section to include bike lanes and some other improvements generally along that area. So those are the primary improvements for this development.
Okay. And last question, your trips, you mentioned bike lanes. Do you know what the breakdown of the multimodal trips were, or are these all vehicular?
So for these summaries, we only provide vehicular trip estimates. We don't, the data that we have from our standards that we review doesn't provide bicycle or pedestrian trips, but we do consider some multimodal reductions in some instances. I'd have to look at this one, but we don't have trip numbers that are provided by those estimates.
Gotcha, thank you. So the only thing I'll say on this one is that I am very happy to see this mixed use piece. The assumption is that we will get a couple of things that will provide a little bit more balance in terms of the use than what we would have gotten from urban core. So I'm glad to see that. I'm concerned about the volume difference here, and to hear that the improvements are a traffic signal that doesn't necessarily feel like it's going to keep a good flow there based on what's existing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further questions or comments from council? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Any opposed, please raise your hand. Ms. Watlington and Ms. Mayfield are in dissent. That motion passes. Thank you. We'll move on to item number 10, rezoning petition 2023-044 by Morris Holdings II LLC, located on approximately 63.22 acres on the north and south side of Morris Estate Drive, east of North Graham Street and west of IBM Drive in Council District 2, Mr. Graham's district. The current zoning is RE3 research, and the proposed zoning is I2 CD general industrial conditional. The zoning committee voted 7-0 to recommend approval of this petition, and staff recommends approval of this petition. Is there a motion to approve this petition and adopt the zoning committee's statement of consistency as it appears in our agendas and on the screen as the council's own?
So moved.
Second. There's been a motion that's been made and properly second. Any discussion of that motion? Ms. Mayfield.
And this is, Mr. Patton, can you just, and I forgot to ask this when we had our noon call, do we know what this is? Because when I read the summary, it's to allow the 325,000 square feet of light manufacturing, assembly, warehousing, climate control, self-storage, offices, outdoor storage, wireless communication, as well as other principal and accessory uses permitted in I2, but is currently developed with manufacturing and warehousing.
Mm-hmm.
So what is this?
So they're essentially going to maintain the existing use, which is somewhat of a industrial-based use, but it's not a heavy industry. And they're going through this rezoning process to expand for some outdoor storage area along the backside of the property. There's still lots of, at least 100 feet plus of buffering to any residential up to the north. So really, everything will stay the same on the site through this petition outside of expanding some of the property that's kind of behind the building towards the north side of Mallard Creek Road with some additional outdoor storage and parking that would be screened and buffered from the view of the road, as well as some of those neighboring properties, which again are well over 100 feet away to the north.
What I want to make sure that we're not approving, so what was it, last week before last, we approved a development that particular business has a Hummy. I'm thinking about the environmental.
Yeah.
We got the 100-foot buffer. We also have some areas. I just want to make sure that what we're approving, once it's built out, is not something that environmentally could impact residents that are surrounding.
Looking at the site plan and the conditional notes and what's out there, I don't think that will be really a significant concern. The outdoor storage area is generally there as a grassed area. They will make some improvements to it, but they'll have to enhance any, stormwater control measures, any runoff measures as a result of expanding that storage area would all have to get captured in permitting. And again, there's a pretty substantial buffer between this potential use and the uses residential to the north. So I think they have it pretty well hemmed into where they kind of already are existing. It's just going to be expanding, not expanding, improving the area that's already out there for that outdoor storage. But all that's got to go through permitting and meet all the stormwater and
that's when we'll identify hours of business, because unfortunately, I've received a couple of calls where in a different part of town, it seems like trucks are running 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. And because of where the location is, it's not necessarily getting a lot of attention. So I just want to make sure that as we move forward, that we have some very clear language as far as business hours when those trucks are entering and exiting the property.
certainly, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Any further questions or comments? All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Any opposed, please raise your hand. That is unanimous in support. We'll move on to item number 12. Rezoning petition 2023-099 by Beacon Partners, ABMAR GK Twin Lakes LLC, ES 10,000 Twin Lakes LLC, and TKC 19 LLC, located on approximately 64 acres on the south side of Vance Davis Drive, east of Twin Lakes Parkway, and west of Old Statesville Road, in Council District 4, Ms. Johnson's district. The current zoning is OFC office Flex Campus, and the proposed zoning is ML1, Manufacturing and Logistics 1. The zoning committee voted 7-0 to recommend approval of this petition, and staff also recommends approval of this petition. Is there a motion to approve the petition and adopt the zoning committee's statement of consistency as it appears in our agendas and on the screen as the council's own?
So moved.
Second. There's been a motion that's been made and properly seconded. Any questions or comments from the council? Ms. Johnson.
This is the one that I was thinking about earlier. Can you just explain that a little?
Sure. So the properties were previously zoned, I think they were zoned BP, which is an old business park zoning that the city had. That zoning district did used to allow some industrial uses, which is how this industrial park was essentially established under that old zoning. In the UDO translation, that went to the OFC district, which doesn't allow some of the uses that actually occupy some of these buildings that have been existing for, many years. So this is somewhat of a corrective rezoning. I think this is the third rezoning we've seen out of this business park, 2 on the north side by Wells Fargo and another petition as well out here. So this will basically take them to the MNL1 zoning district, which would allow them to continue to operate as legal, not as nonconformities as they are now. So it would allow them to be, expanded or or rebuilt and reestablished, and it just corrects that OFC zoning to the desired place type of M&L, manufacturing logistics.
Thank you. So my question is, can we look forward to seeing these routinely?
I think we'll continue to see some of these that come in that may have gotten translated to a district that may have allowed a use earlier this year, but after June, that use may have changed or been modified under the UDO, just things that you don't necessarily think through every scenario or capture every scenario in that zoning translation. So we may see some more of these. This is also what we're working on through alignment rezoning, is trying to identify these areas to bring them forward more on a wholesale base over the next couple years, but that will be a little ways out. So that's why we're starting to see these come in individually, either as a group of parcels like this one or just individual petitions like we've seen for the two other ones that are out here.
So if there's a small business that's not looking to rezone or may not have an attorney that might be impacted by that, is that something that we should be doing outreach about, or is that something that a business owner needs to worry about?
I think it's challenging for us to get into that level of detail because we don't know the exact uses in all these buildings and whether or not they're, still, a permitted use under the UDO versus what the old zoning districts were, particularly in these business parks that may have translated. So it is something that we're trying to get our arms around a little bit better, but we don't have a good breakdown right now of where some of these issues may be and if it's just, this business park or if there's a few others, but it is on the list of things that we're going through in that alignment rezoning process, which we're already starting the analysis on now.
So for the public, business owners, should they look at the app to find out how their property is zoned, or is?
Yeah, they can always check zoning either on Charlotte Explorer, Polaris, the Development Near Me app. They can reach out to staff. We can walk them through if they have any questions on that front. But that's probably the best way for them to be a little bit more ahead of it probably than staff can be, just given the size and scope of it.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all the questions I had.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments from the council? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Any opposed, please raise your hand. Seeing none, that is passed unanimously. We will move on to agenda item number 17, rezoning petition 2023-106 by Charlotte Planning Design and Development, which is a text amendment. Before I read anything else into the record, this does have changes after the zoning committee vote. If there are changes after the zoning committee vote has occurred, the council is required to send the petition back to the zoning committee for further review unless council by a 3/4 vote of all members present determines that the nature of the modification is such that future review is not necessary. We'll have Mr. Patton read us the changes, and council will decide after that.
Sure. So the main change was really if you recall, we had a text amendment several months ago that cleaned up. We found that there were existing single-family homes in our commercial district, in our OFC district. So essentially, this text amendment, we realized that we hadn't folded all of that allowance from that previously approved petition back from August earlier this year into this text amendment. So just to get it all caught up to speed and get everything captured, we had to make a change to this after zoning committee that essentially just reflects what was approved back in August 21st, which would allow single family and duplexes to be permitted uses in CG and OFC as approved back on that August 21st meeting under petition 2023-093. So it was really just making sure that we folded everything in together to make it a comprehensive amendment to this.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion that the changes should not go back to zoning committee?
So moved.
Second.
It's been a motion that's been made and properly seconded. Any questions or comments from the council? Hearing none, all in favor of not sending this back to the zoning committee, please raise your hand. Any opposed, please raise your hand. That is one, and I think that is at least 3/4 of a vote of 10. So we'll not go back. So we'll go back to approval, making a decision on this item. The text amendment will allow multifamily attached, multifamily stacked, and multi-dwelling development in the general commercial and regional commercial zoning districts when located in a centrist place type. The zoning committee voted 7-0 to recommend approval of this petition, and staff recommends approval of this petition. Do I have a motion to approve the petition and adopt the zoning committee statement of consistency as it appears in our agendas and on the screen as the council's on?
So moved.
A motion has been made and properly second. Any discussion or questions of this motion? Ms. Mayfield.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Mr. Patton and I spoke earlier. The concern that I have is with this language to update, I think we have a different opportunity here because we've already seen a number of unintended consequences with the 2040 plan, as well as the fact that we say that it's a living document. The concern that I have is when we talk about near commercial area, for me, I would like a little bit more clarification of what that could be and what it isn't. So what we know, fast forward many years later, hindsight is 2020, we should have never let communities be built that were next to quarries. We have other types of commercial uses where we allowed residential to be built that probably shouldn't have, as those particular businesses have grown and expanded. It's created impact in residential neighborhoods, and a lot of times it's not necessarily disclosed what is nearby when you're looking to make an investment. So I think we have an opportunity to really clarify what this is, even though staff, and I spoke to the chair as well, committee looks at this amendment as a way to clean up some language, but I think we have an opportunity to further clarify the language so that we don't keep coming back to community to say, oops, unintended consequence on this, when we had an opportunity to really clarify what type of commercial, what type of businesses that we're saying you will be allowed to build residential, especially when a lot of our development, to be perfectly honest, is from outside of our city. So once that development comes, they complete their project, they're gone. Government, unfortunately, is who is relied upon to try to address any challenges that come after the fact. So I will be moving. I'm not going to submit an amendment to the motion, but I will be voting against because I think we're missing an opportunity to have a real conversation that addresses the language that we use for unintended consequences.
Ms. Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and thank you, Councilmember Mayfield. I had a discussion earlier with Ms. Babson, and we talked about that term, unintended consequences, and I think we should just work to eliminate that. As leaders, some things are foreseeable. So, you know, if we're looking at things, unintended consequences, I mean, I think our voters elect us to mitigate those as much as possible. So we just had that discussion today. I don't know why that's such an acceptable term. I'll be supporting what you said. I think we should take opportunities to really improve our policies and take a step back and look at these things. So thank you.
Mr. Driggs.
So we talked about this in committee, and I think we were all in agreement there, I seem to recall. But the point about this is it basically addresses a technical issue, which is we wanted to have residential in a center's place type, but the conversion, the translation meant that certain zoning categories that were in center's place types might exclude that. So we're just kind of cleaning up a conflict. It's a technical issue. I think the questions that are being raised are valid, but they are the subject of a policy conversation that goes way beyond the scope. I'm not sure this is the occasion to try to answer all those questions. So personally, I hope we can just put this Band-Aid on and then continue to debate what type of residential and the questions that you've raised. Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Ms. Molina.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I'm listening to the dialogue, and I actually was talking to Councilmember Mayfield earlier today about some information that I'd read about how we grow responsibly as a city. And I, listening to Councilmember Driggs, I think, inevitably, I think we do have to take on the policy discussion at some point to make sure that we're as responsible as possible, as we possibly can, with the living document. I'm supporting the Band-Aid, but I'm, I guess encouraging my colleagues, I don't know to what committee chairs at the table, would actually hold that conversation about, the responsibility of our growth and how we don't, experience some of those unintended, consequences that some of our peer cities have already experienced. And I know we have the brain capacity at the table to do it. I know we have, the ideas at the table to do it, so I'm ready to entertain that, whenever we're ready to do so.
Thank you. I certainly encourage our colleagues to start policy discussions and have policy discussions, whether it's amongst ourselves on the phone, in person, or trying to recommend to the proper committee so that we can work with staff on that policy work. So let's just keep that in mind. Make sure it's not just a kind of a throwaway comment that is made at the dais tonight. So, any further questions or comments? You have a question?
I can address it after you ask for this vote.
You want to address it?
You can go ahead and call the question. I've got a comment after that.
Now's the time for comments, so go ahead.
It's not specific to this vote. It's about the policy question.
All right.
Or about getting it recommended to committee.
Oh, okay, yeah.
All in favor of that, all in favor of that motion, please raise your hand. Any opposed, please raise your hand. Ms. Mayfield and Ms. Johnson in opposition. Ms. Watlington.
I wanted to know, to your point about it not being a throwaway, if there is will around the dais at this point to go ahead and just vote for that deferral to go to the planning committee.
What referral?
The referral that was being requested just now, this policy discussion.
So I actually, Mayor Pro Tem, if I may, I did not put it in the form of a motion to refer it to committee. So if you refer it to committee now, then I would gladly second so that we can have it in, because it was based off of Councilmember Driggs' comments, of which the chair has.
Mr. Triggs.
I would just like to submit that a referral like this should be very clearly stated as to what it is we're going to talk about and so on, and therefore it would make more sense to me for a member to bring forward a written motion and so that we can all be together and clear on exact, because this is something that could go off in a bunch of different directions. So I would appreciate it. I don't think there's incredible time sensitivity. I would just appreciate it as the chair of the Transportation Planning Committee if I had better instruction on exactly what it was that we're talking about referring.
I would also say we do not have on our agenda committee referrals here on our agenda tonight. So in order to get that on the agenda, we would have to have a unanimous vote of the council to do that on the next one, or a majority for a future meeting. We have those first Monday meetings to do that.
I don't think that applies.
I'm not sure that
City Attorney?
you don't put committee referrals on the agenda generally, so I think there's something that can come up in the course of council conversation. So I don't believe it would be out of order. I just wish that we had a thoughtful, clear written statement about what the referral is in order, because this gets into pretty deep water. You're now starting to talk about more of the substance of what we decided in our policy, and not, as was the original proposal here, a kind of technicality. So I'm very open. If anybody wants to create that, bring it forward at a future meeting. We can act on it. We can get the committee working on it. But we just need to know exactly what it is.
Yeah, and council members can speak to each other, definitely to committee chairs.
Let's work together. I'll look at a draft. We should talk to each other more anyway, but this is something we should approach, thoughtfully.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 18, rezoning petition 2021-256 by MVR Incorporated, located on approximately 150.78 acres on the north side of Old Concord Road, east of North Tryon Street and south of West Rocky River Road in Council District 4, Ms. Johnson's district. The current zoning is N1A Neighborhood 1A, N1B Neighborhood 1B, and R6CD Single Family Residential Conditional. The proposed zoning is MX2 Innovative, Mixed-Use Innovative with 5-year vested rights. The zoning committee voted 5-1 to recommend approval of this petition, and staff recommends approval of this petition. Is there a motion to approve the petition and adopt the zoning committee's statement of consistency as it appears in our agendas and on the screen as the council's own?
So moved.
Second. There's been a motion that's been made and properly second. Any questions or comments from the council? Ms. Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. This petition is huge in District 4. It's 150 acres of green space that's going to be changing. And this was the one that's been deferred for 2 months because I was waiting on the tree canopy report. And I sent an email to council and just said that we need to be responsible about this decision. Although we don't have the written report that was due in September, we don't have it yet. I have received information from the city manager about the preliminary numbers. Staff is not ready to share them, but I do want to let council know that I have enough information, and although we should have it in writing, and I've even asked another petitioner to defer their petition for 182 acres because we don't have it in writing. So this petitioner has deferred it twice, like I said, and this will be a third time. So based on the information I have from the city manager, I think we can say we've done our due diligence for this one, but I'm comfortable that we shouldn't move forward on the other one because we don't have it in writing. The two of those petitions together would be over 300 acres of development. If you look at District 4 petitions tonight, they total up to 500 acres of tree space that's changing in District 4. So, you know, when I talk about cumulative impact and responsible and infrastructure, there is a reason that we need to do that. And we know it's good for our districts, it's good for the city. We need to be looking at the development citywide from that lens. So I've been told by the staff, I talked to Liz for a long time, Ms. Babson for a long time today, that we will have the numbers for the tree canopy report because we haven't had a tree canopy report since 2019. So my concern is making decisions, current decisions on using information that's not current. But I will say for this petition, based on the information I've received from the city manager, that I'm recommending approval. I also want to thank NVR and John Carmichael for working so closely with the neighborhoods. They've had multiple meetings, and I mean probably 5 meetings. They've been very responsive to the neighbors. They've reduced the overall number of dwellings on the site from 683 to 649. There's single family for sale units. They've added a 51-foot lots instead of 51-foot lots, and that was based on feedback from the residents, and they've increased the depth on all the lots from 96 feet to 120 feet. They also have added a minimum 40-foot wide landscape area that's going to meet the landscape standards. They're donating, I think, 20 acres. So there's a total of 29 acres of tree save, and they've just worked very, very closely with the residents. So I just want to applaud this developer and thank them for helping to raise the standard of development in District 4. I've met with city staff numerous times, the city subdivision department, and we've just been working on this development. As you see, the petition number is 2021-256. So I'm supporting this. Again, this is a huge change for the residents, but the developer has worked closely and made a lot of concessions and improvements, and I want to thank them for that. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed, please raise your hand. That is unanimous in favor. We'll move on to agenda item number 20, rezoning petition 2022-019 by Urban Trends Real Estate Incorporated, located on approximately 2.09 acres on the northeast side of the plaza, south of Bridgeport Drive and west of Barrington Drive in Council District 5, Ms. Molina's district. The current zoning is B1 neighborhood business and R4 single-family residential, and the proposed zoning is UR2CD urban residential conditional. The zoning committee voted 7-0 to recommend approval of this petition. Staff recommends approval of this petition upon resolution of the outstanding issue pertaining to environment. Is there a motion to approve the petition and adopt the zoning committee's statement of consistency as it appears in our agendas and on the screen as the council's own? There's been a motion that's been made and properly second. Any discussion or question from the council? Ms. Molina?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I just want to make sure that that I give reference to the community. This particular petition is adjacent to the Hampshire Hills neighborhood, and Miss Erica Frazier leads that courageous charge. She is an excellent woman who I admire deeply, and we've held a few community meetings. I'm looking at, the representative for the petitioner who's in the audience, and they were some tough cookies, weren't they? They had some specific asks, but I want to make sure that I let, the community and my colleagues know some of the updates that were made as a result of the petition. Actually, some tree save was added, so they agreed to add a tree save area on the north side of the project that's adjacent to the existing homes in Hampshire Hills. They added some screening and fencing to buffer for the community as a result of the petition. And I wanted to make sure, because there was some specific concerns around stormwater the last time that we, spoke about this particular petition, and I want you guys to know that that's actually been taken care of. We acknowledge the stormwater control measures that are needed, and there's some existing review. And I know that, Mr. Pettin, you can speak to this way better as far as the stormwater is concerned, because I spoke to him earlier today, and we talked about those updates. So if you can clarify that.
Yeah, sure. So they did add some notes about having to acknowledge and meet the stormwater ordinance, which, I think they know going into that development process that they have to do that. They did add some language in there about having to review potentially the existing streams on site. That would all get coordinated during permitting. And essentially, they have those notes, and they're also stating that there's an understanding that that may also impact the project itself. They may, lose units. They may have to make modifications. They may have to, upsize a stormwater aspect of the site that they weren't maybe anticipating during the rezoning process. So essentially just acknowledges that there's still a lot of review and work that they'll need to put into that part of it. And it may, change the outcome of the project to some degree, but, and they may have to, like I said, look at those existing streams on site, but that's all been captured, and they'll have to go through all that in pretty good detail and permitting before they can start, turning the first bit of dirt out there.
Okay. And so with that being said and that clarification, I feel comfortable supporting it because we've addressed the outstanding issues. And actually some of these are pre-existing for the neighborhood. But I feel comfortable making sure that we are addressing those concerns and even willing to make any modifications necessary for the community members.
Thank you very much. Any further questions or comments from the council? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Any opposed, please raise your hand. None, that is unanimous. In favor. We'll move on to agenda item number 22, rezoning petition 2022-160 by Pendler Development LLC, located on approximately 24.13 acres along the south side of Mount Holly Road on the east side of Creston Circle, west of Interstate 485, located in the ETJ and County Commission District 2, Ms. Leak's district, closest to City Council District 2, Mr. Graham's district. The current zoning is ML1, Manufacturing and Logistics, CG, General Commercial, and 1A, Neighborhood 1A. The proposed zoning is R12 MF, Multifamily Residential Conditional. The zoning committee voted 4-3 to recommend approval of this petition, and staff does not recommend approval of this petition in its current form. There have been changes made after the zoning committee, so we'll have to hold a vote whether or not to send it back. Mr. Patton, can you tell us about those changes?
Certainly. So 2 changes made. First, as the site plan was slightly revised to better reflect existing topography and some of the proposed grading for the site. This did include shifting some of the buildings and parking areas on the interior of the site. And then the other change, which was the most recent one as of over the weekend and this morning, essentially eliminates the commitment to provide a monetary contribution to the Housing Trust Fund, and they've replaced that with a commitment to build affordable units on site, no fewer than 10. No less than 5 of those would be provided at 80% AMI, and then no less than the other 5 would be provided at 120% AMI, both for a period of no less than 15 years. So essentially swapped a monetary commitment to an actual on-the-ground built within the project commitment for 10 affordable units.
Thank you very much.
And again, we don't think that should go back to zoning committee. I believe it's a minor change, sorry. Thank you.
Move not to send back.
Second.
Been a motion that's been made and properly second not to send back. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed, please raise your hand. That is unanimous not to send back. Is there a motion to approve the petition and adopt the zoning committee statement of consistency as it appears in our agendas and on the screen as the council's own?
So moved.
Second.
It's been a motion made and properly second. Any discussion or questions from the council? Ms. Mayfield.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I want to take a moment to thank not only Keith McBain, but also Will McGuire. We had a very detailed and long conversation last week where they were able to hear my concerns with the development. For transparency, I live in that part of District 2, so I've seen some of the impact. So I had some very specific questions regarding egress and regress, and I appreciated the fact that they accepted my recommendation that opposed to giving money to the Housing Trust Fund, keep that money in the project and give me some units. If we think about who would have access as our city is becoming extremely expensive for a number of our workers. I also appreciate the fact that we were able to have a real conversation about what does school bus entrance look like on the interior of the property versus having a school bus stopping on Mount Holly Road, because there is a middle school. If you were to go left, we talked about the right turn lane, and since they will be utilizing their property, they will be able to do a road widening in an area that basically is one lane each way, as well as the commitment for the left turn lane, which is a little further up from the actual site. And I believe, Mr. McVeigh, was what we said, about 150 feet, which would give enough time for, if there's an individual that needs to go left, they can go down. There's a side street that goes into the neighborhood, and that interior actually brings you out a little further down Mount Holly Huntersville Road. So I wanted to say thank you for hearing and for setting an example, because this is a opportunity in development to create some diversity in our house price points without asking for government assistance on it. It is just a matter of, opposed to doing a fee in lieu, incorporating it into your development. This could lead other conversations, so I hit them with a lot of questions during the hearings publicly, so I wanted to publicly also say thank you for hearing and for making adjustments to try to make as good of a project as we can have. I know staff has concerns. This is a heavily residential area. It also is a commercial center. We literally have 2 gas stations, a grocery store, sit-down restaurant, a fast food restaurant, a number of entertainment-related access right up on the corner. So when we talk about that we want to have this connectivity and this accessibility, yes, I would have loved to see single family there, but we have a multifamily development that's literally a mile and a half up from where this project is going. It's just on the backside of the railroad tracks. So, and we approved a gas station to go in front of a major community of Mountain Island and some other things. It took a minute for me to get to the place of comfortability, but thanks to the agreements, and I'm not even gonna say concessions, the wins for the community, I am in support of this, and I did want to publicly thank both Mr. McGuire as well as Mr. McVeigh for hearing my concerns. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Any other questions or comments from the council? Hearing none, all in favor of this petition, please raise your hand. All opposed, please raise your hand. Mr. Driggs is opposed. Thank you very much. That is approved. We'll move on to agenda item number 24, rezoning petition 2023-088 by On Cleveland LLC, located on approximately .157 acres at the southeast intersection of Cleveland Avenue and East Worthington Avenue, south of East Boulevard in Council District 1, Ms. Anderson's district. The current zoning is NSHDO, Neighborhood Services Historic District Overlay, and the proposed zoning is NCX HDO, Neighborhood Center Exception with a Historic District Overlay. The zoning committee voted 7-0 to recommend approval of this petition, and staff recommends approval of this petition. However, there have been changes made after the zoning committee, so we will have to have a vote whether or not to send it back. Mr. Patton, may you tell us about those changes?
Yeah, certainly. So as you all know, this petition is relocating a historic building, the Leeper Wyatt building, onto the site. So they did have a meeting with the Historic District Commission, I believe it was last week. And there's still a few minor items they need to work through. Nothing, after talking with them and understanding what those items are, that would change the overall layout of the zoning plan that we see in front of us. They're more design elements and things that the Historic Commission is more interested in terms of the building itself, but it wouldn't change the aspects of the site plan that's in the packets this evening. So with that conversation from HDC, there were some changes that had to be incorporated into the plan to capture some of that, and those are the addition of 2 notes. The first is that the appearance of proposed equipment enclosure would be subject to Historic District Commission approval, and then also an 18-inch planting strip would be located between the building's foundation and any areas of concrete. Those are 2 items, again, that the HDC was looking for. There are a few others, but not elements that we would put into a zoning plan, so they still will have to go through the final steps of that process, but it's in a place where, again, there won't be significant changes, so that's why we're seeing it in front of us this evening. So those are the changes. We don't believe that they're large enough to send back to zoning committee, so we aren't recommending that it go back to them at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion to not send back to the zoning committee?
So moved.
Second.
A motion has been made and properly second. Any question, discussion of that motion? Ms. Anderson?
So, Mr. Pettin, I understand that the HDC approves this project overall, but it hasn't gone completely through the HDC process. And there are some aspects of the project, such as how the excavation permit will be exercised in other parts of the COA that I think are of relevance and of import to the Dilworth community. I think they would have liked to have seen this project completely go through the HDC process before we vote on this evening, but they are not opposed to the project. There's been significant progress since the public hearing in that regard, so they are not opposed. But is there any type of notes or any type of additions, amendments that we could ensure that there is continued collaboration with the DCA as it relates to the nuances of the HDC process?
So so if the rezoning got approved this evening, they still wouldn't really be able to do any of the work related to relocating that building on the site without HDC approval. And if they don't ever get there and through HTC, then the building never gets relocated. So this essentially gives them the ability to do it, but HTC still has that final authority, so they still have to make sure they meet any of the design elements that they're looking for, for the facade of the building. If they're doing any building additions or renovations, they have to go through and make sure they meet all those processes. They can't get any kind of permits to do any work on the site until that process is complete. So we still have a bit of a check and balance built in there, and we've done this on a couple of other petitions that have HTC requirements. The most recent one, I think, and I talked to Dilworth earlier this morning, was the Van Landingham Estate, also in District 1. That basically got to the same point where there was no real challenges to the project other than just, kind of design elements of the buildings. And that went through, got approved, and they still had, a couple iterations they had to work with HTC. We unfortunately have seen some that have gotten approval too early and then had to go back through a complete rezoning because HTC made some significant changes, but I don't feel like that's going to be the path with this one. But there's still a lot of opportunity for that collaboration and going through the HTC process and making sure that all of those elements that are looked for the historic district can still be met before they can move forward with the project. So this is really just kind of giving them, that set of keys to move forward with it.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I wanted to just be clear with the community around the next steps after we get through the stage gate, that there's opportunity for plenty of collaboration and working with the petitioner to ensure that it's the right outcome for the neighborhood.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll just say our apologies on our end for maybe not making it as clear that we were looking mainly for almost a blessing from HTC that there's not any significant changes that would happen before it went to decision. I think there may have been some difference in how we worded that to say full approval. So our apologies for creating any of that confusion, but it's in a spot where those changes, that HTC is looking for wouldn't lead us to that point of having to rezone again down the road. So.
No problem. I communicated with Mr. Clark, the head of the HDC, so I appreciate that explanation. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments on the motion not to send back?
Not on that, no.
All right, hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed, please raise your hand. That is unanimous, not to send back. Is there a motion to approve the petition and adopt the zoning committee statement of consistency as it appears in our agendas and on the screen as the council's own?
So moved. Second.
There's been a motion that's been made and properly seconded. Any questions or comments to the motion? Mr. Driggs?
So, Ms. Watlington, I think you shared with us that the residents are opposed? I'm sorry.
District 1.
Oh, yeah, that's a different one.
That's the next
This
one?
is in my
Is that the
district.
next one? Okay, I'm good with this one. Catching up.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, Ms. Anderson.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Mr. Driggs. I want to be clear that largely there is considerable support for this particular petition. And prior to all of the progress that we've made and to the petitioner's credit, they have worked very closely with the DCA and other community members to ensure that the issue of parking and the stress on those residents that don't particularly have driveways due to the historical nature of their homes and their residences, that they were able to largely appease and collaborate with those residents. So there has been significant movement on that particular challenge, and we do have support from the DCA as well as the zoning committee unanimously supporting this initiative. So I'm happy to see something like this, being a Charlotte native, born and raised, and spent tons of time in Dilworth as a kid, to see one of the historic buildings in that neighborhood be preserved and potentially used in a unique manner on a go-forward basis without overwhelmingly burdening the residents of Dilworth. So I will clearly be supporting this, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Mayfield?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Mr. Patton, as was mentioned by Councilmember Anderson, I'm trying to get a little more clarification on the parking, since the emails that we received overwhelmingly were in concern of the parking in residence. And you can remember, and Councilmember Mitchell would remember, a time where we had to go out to a facility in the evening because that particular facility, when they would have parking, the parking ended up into residential neighborhood. We have noted on here, the site currently sacrifices approximately half of its area for a surface parking lot. In densifying communities such as these, surface parking lots are not preferred uses and do not mirror the pedestrian environment envisioned for the neighborhood center place type. What we're seeing, though, is in a number of neighborhoods is that pedestrians are not able to safely maneuver because of the way vehicles are parked, whether that vehicle is blocking the sidewalk because of the way the driveway is set up, or we have vehicles that literally park in bicycle lanes as if that is okay. So help me understand where in the language it does address the parking issue when the biggest concern was parking within the residential neighborhoods and creating a negative impact.
So they did add a conditional note on the plans for off-site vehicle parking. It states that parking areas for non-residential uses can be located in an off-site lot or parking structure no more than 800 feet walking distance from the development. That off-street parking would have to go through the zoning review process. The petitioner would provide 10 lease spaces for 5 years. In the event that public parking becomes available, then they reserve the right to have staff re-review that and make sure if that is going to be met through public parking, then they can negate those lease spaces that they had. But there's a commitment to those lease spaces, like I said, for at least 5 years. They also have, I believe, 4 spaces on site. There's 8 on-street spaces. So they do have, like I said, 10 leased, 4 on site, 8 on street. And the language that they had for the lease spaces, our zoning administrator did review, and they were comfortable with that language.
So for clarification, it still needs to go through zoning review. So if we move forward tonight, what you're saying is there's a contract for lease spaces for 5 years. 5 years, we've seen the impact of growth in this city in a 3-year period, much less 5 years. What's the written plan after the 5 years? Because if this is a restaurant that has employees that hopefully will be successful as far as having patrons, unless you're saying that this is really just for the interior, for the people that live there to patronize it, and you're not anticipating anyone from outside of that immediate area to patronize this particular business, I'm trying to understand how you're comfortable with just a 5-year plan for a handful of parking spaces.
So there is some potential public parking that would be coming online. I think part of this project that is going to impact the Leaper Wyatt building on South Boulevard in Tremont, which is why that building's being moved to this site, is anticipated to have publicly available parking in their deck. So that's probably less than like 800 feet away from this site. So long-term, there will be public decks that should become available, and we'll evaluate those as they come online. That project should be completed within that time frame. If there's a need to continue to have those spaces, we can revisit that at some point, but the commitment is for those 5 years with the anticipation that we are, and they've had a close relationship with the folks developing that site because, again, that's where the historic building is being moved from. So the timing of that project and how it impacted the historic building is also based on the timing of the development of that site into, I think, a mixed, either a residential building or mixed-use building. But again, that will have public parking, and that's one of the areas that they're also envisioning that could help to serve this site and other businesses in that general part of the community.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Any opposed, please raise your hand. Passes with Ms. Mayfield in opposition. Council members, we do have an item 24B that is in front of you. I guess it didn't make it into our printed package.
Yes, apologies for that. It is the zoning committee recommendation, final staff analysis, and site plan should be in front of you. Apologies for not getting into the print version, but it is there, and it is in our online version as well.
Thank you very much. So we'll call it item 24B, rezoning petition 2022-204 by, excuse me, Sunset Road Development, Frontiers Enterprises LLC. The current zoning is N1B, Neighborhood 1B, and the proposed zoning is MUD CD, Mixed Use Development District Conditional. The zoning committee voted 7 to nothing to deny this petition, and staff recommends approval of this petition. Is there a motion to approve the petition and adopt staff's consistency statement as the council's own?
Move to deny.
No, staff doesn't recommend it, or does?
Staff does recommend it.
I'm sorry, go ahead, yeah.
Committee didn't.
Zoning committee did.
So we're adopting the zoning
We
committee?
would adopt, if there's a motion to
Staff's.
approve, we would adopt staff's consistency statement.
Yeah.
We have a motion to deny that doesn't have a second yet.
Because move to deny as the petition is found to be inconsistent per zoning committee. So if it doesn't have a second, then somebody needs to do another motion.
Second.
There's a motion that's been made and properly second.
You did. You just seconded the move to approve.
Any discussion of that motion?
Yeah.
No. I'm sorry. My denial, my second was for Councilmember Mayfield.
But we have
Already.
All right.
Mr. Mitchell?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Dave, I think for clarity for council members, one, that they come to our package late, and I think we need some clarity. Very seldom do we have what the zoning committee is saying deny and staff saying approval. So, Mayor Pro Tem, if it's okay, we hear the argument from the zoning committee, just so we can be clear on issues that they saw.
You can certainly ask the zoning committee a question.
Mr. Chairman, can you share with us just a finding from the zoning committee perspective why you all voted 7-0 for denial?
Thank you, Mr. Mestro. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
The discussion in this particular case, there were a number of issues that we touched on. The connectivity to the surrounding commercial areas was a concern. We also had a concern about the proximity to the industrial site, which is a quarry, which was nearby. And those were issues that significantly swayed the temperature of the room. And so those were our primary concerns. Is that enough for you?
So a rock quarry and then connectivity. What district is this in? It's a district.
Yeah.
We defer this.
Only one.
That's why I moved to deny.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Mr. Driggs?
I would just say I respect the opinion of the zoning committee. It felt to me as if the petitioner actually did offer some pretty good responses to the concerns, and so I find myself on the side of the staff on this one. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll make a comment real quick, because, I think this came up last month. I don't totally understand the zoning committee's desire to see this not happen. It's currently zoned under a district that housing is able to be built here. So this rezoning allows for a mix of uses at it. So we're not necessarily preventing housing from being built there, which is a by right option. And I believe that this is actually very close in walking distance to a very well-marked, lit, and signalized intersection so that they can cross the street, residents can, or visitors can walk across the street to access many, many different services and amenities that are right literally across the street from this. So while somebody might find living here less than desirable, it is an already allowed use, so I don't see why we would deny an improvement to, again, add not just housing, but other jobs and goods and services that would be on this site. with this rezoning. So I'll be voting in favor. Ms. Watlington?
I just wanted to know, what is the status of the community area plan that covers this plot?
I think all the community area plans are being done.
They've been superseded by the policy map.
No, I'm talking about the community area planning process that we're doing for each one of these. There's the southwest.
Oh, the 14 regions?
Yeah. The reason I ask is because looking at this and considering the proximity to the quarry, it would be reasonable, in my opinion, that we would change these residential lots as part of that planning process. And so that's why I'm asking, where are we in the planning process for this particular region within our city? Because if there's an opportunity to go through and update it in a way that reflects what we believe is desirable here, then I would rather we execute that work so that the policy would line up with the intention.
So I will need to get back to you on those details, but I believe we are starting the second phase of that engagement process in January, and it's likely going to take about 18 months to get through that entire process, where you would start to see changes as a result of that.
Thank you.
Dave, do you know anything?
Yeah, I know they still have, this particular area, I'm not sure what some of the timelines are. They still have some other meetings to get through this fall, and then they will be back out with the community on some of those projects into the early next year. But I don't know where this one falls. I'm trying to find some on the schedule. This is, I believe, in the west middle part of the areas that they're doing out of those 14, but I don't have the calendar for that batch right in front of me.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Graham?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I'm going to reiterate the points that the Mayor Pro Tem gave. I think he was very accurate in his assessment. It's my assessment as well, and I went to the site several times, and so I'm very comfortable with it. There's been no opposition to speak of from neighborhoods in close proximity. The quarry is a distance away.
On the other side.
On the other side. And so I hope that we would approve it, and this has been lingering for months now.
Any further questions or comments from the council?
Yeah,
Ms. Johnson?
I'm sorry. And this is just as a policy. Can we start getting maybe something, a recommendation or in writing, so we have like the minutes or a summary from the zoning committee when they deny something outright?
Yeah, you have a zoning committee report. It should
Is it the
be.
reports in here? Okay. Do we have anything from the county from an environmental perspective? Are there environmental concerns being that close to a quarry?
They shared some concerns about just general air quality, that they don't have an ability to regulate that beyond what they've already got in place. And I think, let me go back and see if there was anything else outside of that. Let's see. Yeah, they had some concerns of just about, like I said, general air quality. There was a groundwater comment provided, but again, that's only if they're proposing well and septic systems. This would be tied into public utilities, so that's more of an advisory comment. But they did talk about, the truck traffic from the quarry itself may produce some dust and noise, and they don't have any ability to mitigate noise and truck traffic or deny any new air quality permits if they choose to expand that facility, if the ordinance requirements are met. So just more of an advisory note that if they do expand or do continue to operate, they're only limited to what they can regulate as far as noise and air pollution and truck traffic.
Thank you.
I would also point, I believe the zoning committee meetings are streamed online and therefore are able to be accessed on video anytime after that meeting concludes.
Well, yeah, but it's just a summary, like the minutes. Yeah.
Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor of that motion, please raise your hand. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All opposed, please raise your hand. That motion passes with Ms. Johnson and Ms. Watlington in opposition. All right, well, thank you very much. We have completed our decision part of our agenda. We will move on to our public hearings. We'll start with item number 29, petition number 2023-067 by Childress Klein Properties, located on approximately 2.28 acres on the east side of Apex Drive and the north side of Coltsgate Road, west of Cameron Valley Parkway, in Council District 6, Mr. Bakari's district. Current zoning is MUD O, Mixed-Use Development District Option, and NA1 Neighborhood 1A. And the proposed zoning is RACCD, Regional Activity Center Conditional. Staff recommends approval of this petition upon resolution of an outstanding issue related to transportation and requested technical revisions. There are no speakers opposed, so after staff's presentation, Mr. McVeigh, you have 3 minutes.
All right, thank you. 2023-067, that's 2.28 acres on Coltsgate and Apex over in the South Park area. It's currently zoned Neighborhood 1A and MUD O. Proposed zoning is to take both of those parcels to RAC, Regional Activity Center, with conditions. Adopted place type is for Regional Activity Centers. This petition would be consistent. The proposal is for up to 425 multifamily residential units, along with accessory uses allowed in that Regional Activity Center district. Maximum height would be 250 feet. Also provides stormwater notes related to water quality treatment and volume and peak control, and also commits to an 8-foot planting strip and 8-foot sidewalk along Coltsgate Road. Staff does recommend approval of this petition, just have some outstanding items related to transportation and some technical revisions to clean up. As mentioned, it is consistent with the 2040 policy map recommendation for Regional Activity Center. And so we will take any questions that you may have following Mr. McVeigh's presentation. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, members of the Zoning Committee. Keith McVeigh with Moore, Van Allen, Bridget Grant of our firm and I are assisting Childress Klein Properties with this petition. As Dave has mentioned, site's located in South Park, just slightly over 2 acres. It's actually the second phase of the Apex development. A portion of the site that was zoned MUD was rezoned as part of Apex and was approved for 200 residential units and some ground floor retail. This petition adds another 3/4 of an acre based on the adjacent parcel to increase the size of the site, and then, as Dave mentioned, allows a new residential community with up to just over 400 units, consistent with the area plan. We will be working with Dave to address the remaining site plan issues. With me tonight representing the petitioners, Kelly Dunbar and Fred Klein with Childress Klein Properties. We're happy to answer questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments from the council?
Move to close.
Second.
This motion is made and properly seconded to close the public hearing. Any discussion of that motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed, please raise your hand. Hearing none, that is unanimous.
Thank you, sir.
Just for all those that are watching or are here for the first time, once we have a quorum, it's stuck. So even the council members that aren't here, they are automatic yes votes. So we'll move on to item number 30. Rezoning petition 2023-032 by the Keith Corporation, located on approximately 2.43 acres, bound by the south side of Lamar Avenue, west side of Park Drive, north side of Clement Avenue, and the east side of East 5th Street in Council District 1, Ms. Anderson's district. The current zoning is MUD O, mixed-use development optional, and the proposed zoning is MUD O SPA, mixed-use development optional with a site plan amendment. Staff recommends approval of this petition upon resolution of outstanding issues related to site and building design. There are no speakers again, so after staff's
This one got deferred, sorry.
It's got deferred?
Yeah.
All right.
So that, yeah, it will take us to item 31 then.
All right, we'll strike that. We're not doing that. We'll move on to item number 31.
Yeah.
Rezoning petition 2023-028 by Childress Klein Properties, located on approximately 48.21 acres on the west, located west of Quay Road, south of Mallet Creek Road, and northeast of Ridge Road and ETJ, County Commission District 3. Mr. Dunlap's position closest to City Council District 4, Ms. Johnson's district, excuse me. Current zoning is R22 MFCD, multifamily residential, up to 22 units an acre, dwelling units an acre, conditional, and C2 for the City of Concord portion. Proposed zoning is R22 MFCD, SPA, multifamily residential, up to 22 dwelling units per acre, conditional with a site plan amendment, and R22 MFCD with 5-year vested rights, multifamily residential, up to 22 dwelling units an acre, conditional. Staff recommends approval of this petition upon resolution of outstanding issues related to transportation and site and building design. There are no speakers against, so after staff's presentation, Mr. Brown will have 3 minutes.
All right, thank you. 2023-028. It is for approximately 48 acres. This is a petition that is both in Charlotte, and it's not reflected on the map because we don't have the parcel boundary there, but there is a portion that does stretch over the county line into Concord, so we're looking at both of those. It is currently zoned R22 MF conditional, and as we mentioned, C2 for the City of Concord portion. The proposed zoning is to take both of those to R22 MF conditional with the 5-year vested rights. That is a bit of a 5-year carryover. That R22 piece in the Charlotte side was approved as part of the larger King's Grant petition under 2021-028, so 5-year vested rights would be somewhat conducive between both projects. The adopted place type is for Neighborhood 2, and so this petition, again, would be consistent with that. Getting into the proposal, you can see we've got 2 different development areas, both A and B. This petition doesn't increase the entitled units from what was allowed under 2021-028, including reference to this portion in Concord. They did capture that in the notes for that initial petition, as well as any of the traffic impacts that were studied back when that petition was going through the process and ultimately approved. So all of that is folded in. This is essentially just bringing them both under the same R22 MF zoning. So again, 700 multifamily units, which is what was entitled initially on that rezoning a couple years ago, limits the principal number of buildings to 24. Height is capped at 65 feet. 5% of the units would be provided at 80% AMI for a minimum of 15 years. That's the affordable component that's built in. It does dedicate a minimum of 12 acres of open space to Mecklenburg County Park and Rec. That's part of the overall project, as well as a trail network linking this multifamily portion to some of those adjacent uses would be a minimum of 6 feet wide. There's buffering that's been provided. Also commits to working with Concord Mills to create a pedestrian access to the existing bus stop there, and architectural standards have been incorporated into the project for along those facades on Public Road A and B. As mentioned, staff does recommend approval of this petition. Just some issues related to transportation and site and building design to be coordinated. It is consistent with the policy map recommendation, and we will take any questions you may have following the petitioner's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff Brown, Keith McVeigh, Kelly Dunbar, and Fred Klein III. You have 3 minutes combined.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and members of council and zoning committee. Dave did a really great job of summarizing this particular petition. It is an opportunity to bring in the Concord piece into a unified development in a way that we think makes a lot more sense. And we appreciate the council's efforts earlier this year in facilitating that along with Concord, which allows us to be able to have the Charlotte zoning apply to this piece. Happy to answer any questions. Again, the transportation, this was really contemplated back in December 2021 that we would bring this piece in. And again, we really appreciate working with staff on this. It's a little unique situation, and we thank Dave and his team for working with us on this.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments from the council?
Move to close. Second.
Motion has been made and properly second. Any discussion of that motion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed, please raise your hand. That's unanimous to close. We'll move on to item number 32.
No.
Rezoning petition 2023-043 by Drakeford Communities, located on approximately 7.01 acres on the located south of Allegheny Street, west of Ashley Road, and north of Bullard Street in Council District 3, Miss Watlington's district. The current zoning is UR2 CD urban residential conditional and N2B neighborhood 2B. The proposed zoning is UR2 urban residential conditional and UR2 CD with the SPA urban residential conditional with a site plan amendment. Staff recommends approval of this petition upon resolution of outstanding issues related to transportation and site and building design. There are no speakers against this, so after the staff's presentation, the petitioner will have 3 minutes.
All right, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. 2023-043, it's about 7 acres off Allegheny Street, does get all the way down into Bullard Street as you go a little bit farther down Ashley Road. This petition is currently zoned N2B. There is a UR2 conditional that was previously approved for pretty much the majority of this site. Proposed zoning is to do a site plan amendment to that UR2 conditional to incorporate a little bit more acreage and a few more units. So the end zoning would still be UR2 conditional with that site plan amendment. The adopted place type, I do want to just spend a quick minute on this. It is recommended currently for neighborhood 1. However, the entitlements are for a neighborhood 2 project. This was adopted in a little bit of that in-between phase of the new policy map being developed and previous rezonings changing the old maps. It didn't necessarily get folded into this. So essentially, this should be a place type of neighborhood 2 on the map currently. So that inconsistency, again, stems from it being approved kind of in that in-between the old policy map and development of an adoption of the new one. So that, just wanted to point that out. This proposal is to really add just about a half acre to this site. If we get to the next slide there, you can see kind of down in that bottom corner, there's a small portion there in blue that's added acreage. That would result in additional 16 single-family attached dwelling units. So that would bring our total up from 107 to 123 single-family attached dwelling units for this project. Does incorporate some conversion rights that they could take some of those single-family attached and transfer them into single-family detached. So you would do that at a rate of 2 to 1. So if you want to do a single-family detached, that means you drop 2 or take 2 attached units and create 1 single-family detached unit. So building height continues to be limited to 50 feet, similar to what it was approved for under the previous rezoning. The architectural standards that were incorporated have been folded into this petition as well. Does commit to construction of an ADA compliant bus pad along Ashley Road, and also commits to transportation improvements, including the extension of Haywood Avenue as a public street with 8-foot planting strip and 8-foot sidewalk. Also improvement of Bullard Street with 8-foot planting strip and 8-foot sidewalk, and then implementation of a buffered bike lane, 8-foot planting strip and 8-foot sidewalk along Allegheny Street. Staff does recommend approval of the petition. Do have some outstanding issues related to transportation and site and building design. As mentioned, it is inconsistent with the policy map, but again, this was approved for this UR2, and so that policy map recommendation really should read as that neighborhood 2. So in some ways, it's consistent with what's been entitled, so staff didn't have any significant concerns with the request to just add this small half-acre addition to the project. So with that, we'll turn it over to Mr. Brown and take any questions you may have following his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. You have 3 minutes.
Mayor Pro Tem, council members, Colin Brown on behalf of the Drakeford Company. With me tonight is Mr. Bobby Drakeford and Matt Langston, the site designer. Dave did a great job with that overview, so I can expedite our presentation. Really just wanted to point out, when you look at this, this seems like a great big rezoning, but as Dave mentioned, the majority of the site is already entitled. It's got the UR2 zoning. It's got 107 homes approved. We're adding in this little piece. There's been a lot that the Drakeford companies had to deal with dealing with the right-of-way of Bullard Street and its impact, so we're kind of making up for that. So just to do a side-by-side, here's the currently approved zoning plan, and this is the new zoning plan. Very difficult to see the difference between the two. As Dave mentioned, there would be an overall, we would be able to get some more housing on the site, 16 units. We continue to work with staff and the urban design department on some layouts of the frontages of these units, and we expect we will have those resolved and get a revised plan submitted for the zoning committee's consideration. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments from the council?
Close the hearing.
Second.
There's been a motion that's made, properly second to close the public hearing. Any discussion of that motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed, please raise your hand. That's unanimous to close the public hearing. Move on to item number 34, rezoning petition 2023-052 by Providence Group Capital, located on approximately .447 acres on the east side of West Summit Avenue in the north, South Mint Street, and west of Winona Street in Council District 3, Ms. Watlington's district. The current zoning is ML2 Manufacturing and Logistics 2, and the proposed zoning is TODUC Transit Oriented Development Urban Center. Staff recommends approval of this petition. There are no speakers against, so after staff's presentation, you will have 3 minutes. The petitioner.
Thank you. This is petition 2023-052. It is just shy of half an acre located to the east side of West Summit Avenue, north of Mint Street, and west of Winona Street. The current zoning is ML2. Proposed zoning is TOD-UC. 2040 policy map recommends the Regional Activity Center place type for the site. Petition is consistent with that policy map recommendation. Staff recommends approval, and be happy to take any questions after the petitioner's presentation.
Mr. McVeigh, you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, members of zoning committee. Keith McVeigh with Moore Van Allen, assisting Providence Group Capital with this rezoning petition. As Joe mentioned, just slightly over, less than a half acre located on West Summit Avenue, adjacent to a number of parcels already zoned TODCC, also Wilmore neighborhood just to our southwest. We have been in contact with Grayson Hawkins with the Wilmore neighborhood, and they don't oppose this petition. They like the change from industrial to TOD urban center. As I mentioned, a lot of urban center zoning already around it, really moving in the direction for the South End Gold District that is envisioned by the 2040 comp plan, as Joe mentioned, that looks for regional activity center as being the right place type here, consistency again with that. The development of the site under that district implements that vision. We're happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the council? Second, there's been a motion that's been made and properly second to close the public hearing.
We'd like to hear from Mr. McVeigh.
He just
Mr. McVeigh
did.
just went.
Okay.
That's it.
Any discussion of that motion? Hearing none, all in favor to close the public hearing, please raise your hand. Any opposed, please raise your hand. That's unanimous.
Did he go?
No, did you want to say something?
Did you go or not?
He did.
He did.
Yeah, I thought you did.
Oh, okay.
I'm here for you, my friend.
I'm just having a bad night.
It is okay, Ed. You're still coming down from your baby having a beautiful wedding that was
Father of the bride
three-plus
syndrome
events,
over here.
Short question.
All right, we'll move on to item number 35, rezoning petition 2023-054 by Smith Chelsea Bjorklund Hendrick, located on approximately .79 acres located at southwest intersection of Sardis Road North and Nolly Court, west of Monroe Road, in Council District 6, Mr. Bakari's district. The current zoning is N1A, Neighborhood 1A, and the proposed zoning is N1D, Neighborhood 1D. Staff recommends approval of this petition. There are no speakers in opposition, so after staff's presentation, the petitioner will have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Petition 2023-054 is approximately 0.79 acres located the southwestern corner of the intersection of Sardis Road North and Nolly Court. It is just west of Monroe Road. Current zoning is N1A. Proposed zoning is N1D. 2040 policy map recommends neighborhood 1 place type for the site. Petition is consistent with the neighborhood 1 place type recommendation. N1D and N1A allow the same exact permitted uses. N1D would just do so on smaller lot sizes. Staff recommends approval of the petition. Be happy to answer any questions after the petitioner's presentation.
Thank you very much. Ms. Helms, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. And I apologize. It was too overzealous cheering for the Tennessee Bulls this weekend, so sorry. I am represented. My mother is also Chelsea Smith, and what we are requesting is a change from zoning neighborhood 1A to 1D. So I apologize. Okay. So currently, this is the lot lines, and this is our requested vision for the lot split. It allows, our plan is for 3 to 5 single-family homes. It allows them to face Nolly Court, which is conducive to the other new developments that have also happened on Nolly Court. And I'm happy to ask any questions that may come up. And again, I apologize. Thank you.
Go back to the picture.
Okay, which, yes, ma'am.
Right there. Leave it there.
Okay, great.
Phil, do you have a question or comment?
Oh, excuse me. I want to catch it before.
Yes.
I don't want to ask a question because your voice is breaking. I just wanted you to leave it on that because it was really cute.
Oh, thank you.
Any further questions or comments?
Yeah,
Ms.
you were
Picard?
rooting for the Tennessee Vols, is that correct?
I mean, they were playing Texas, so my uncle went there, but if it was a
we
North
cannot use
Carolina
that.
team, it would have been no
Can't use that
competition.
in land use decisions, unfortunately. Noted.
Based on the voice, move to approve.
Second? No, move to close.
Move to close.
And that was on purpose.
I do have a question for staff. So we're just basically trying to split the lot up to put 3 small homes? 3 small family, that's what the
So
request is.
N1D would allow single family, would allow duplexes, triplexes. The distinction between N1A and N1D is just N1D allows smaller lot sizes.
Yes.
Okay. Do we have what?
It's a conventional petition.
Right. When we say smaller lot sizes, what are we talking, like .11?
3,500 square feet.
Yes.
It's N1D.
Okay. All in favor?
Motion is made and properly seconded. Oh, there's not been a motion yet. Motion to close public hearing.
So moved, yeah.
Second.
Motion is made and properly seconded. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed, please raise your hand. Seeing none, that's unanimous. We will move on to item number 36. Rezoning petition 2023-059 by Queen City Airstream LLC, located on approximately 6.85 acres on the northeast side of West W.T. Harris Boulevard and the south side of Hendry Road, north of Lakeview Road, in Council District 4, Ms. Johnson's district. The current zoning is I-1CD, light industrial conditional, and the proposed zoning is ML1, manufacturing logistics 1. Staff recommends approval of this petition. There are no speakers in opposition, so after staff's presentation, the petitioner will have 3 minutes.
Petition 2023-059 is located on the northeast side of West W.T. Harris Boulevard, south of Hendry Road, north of Lakeview Road. The site is approximately 6.85 acres and is currently undeveloped. The site is currently zoned I-1CD, light industrial conditional. Proposed zoning is ML1, manufacturing and logistics, a conventional district. The 2040 policy map recommends manufacturing and logistics place type. The ML1 district is consistent with the MNL place type. This is a conventional district. There's not an associated site plan and would permit any use allowed in the ML1 district. Staff recommends approval of this petition, and I'm happy to take any questions after Mr. Murray's presentation.
Thank you very much. You have 3 minutes.
Mayor Pro Tem and Council, David Murray, I represent the petitioner, and I'm happy to answer any questions y'all may have.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments from the council?
Move to close. Second.
There's been a motion that's been made and properly seconded. Any questions or discussion from the council on that motion? Hearing none. All in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed, please raise your hand. That is unanimous to close that public hearing. We'll move on to item number 37. A rezoning petition 2023-061 by Couchel Tahakis Properties LLC, apologies if I messed up that name, located on approximately 35.03 acres on the north and south side of East Arrowhead Drive, east side of North Tryon Street, and south side of Heathway Drive in Council District 4, Ms. Johnson's district. The current zoning is ML1, manufacturing and logistics, and ML2, manufacturing and logistics 2. The proposed zoning is TODCC, Transit Oriented Development Community Center, TODNC, Transit Oriented Development Neighborhood Center, and TODUC, Transit Oriented Development Urban Center. Staff recommends approval of this petition. There are no speakers in opposition, so after staff's presentation, the petitioner will have 3 minutes.
Petition 2023-059 is located on the north and south side of East Arrowhead Drive, east side of North Tryon Street, and south side of Heathway Drive. The site is approximately 35.03 acres and consists of several undeveloped parcels. The site is currently zoned ML1 and ML2, manufacturing districts 1 and 2. The proposed zoning is TODCC, which will be along this side of the property, TODNC in the center portion, and TODUC here. They are all conventional districts. The 2040 policy map recommends the manufacturing and logistics place types. The TOD districts are inconsistent with the MNL place type. However, the site is located within a half mile of the Tom Hunter Links Blue Line station. The site is additionally supported by bus transit, and the TOD district would provide a gentle transition from adjacent single-family developments on the north to the existing manufacturing and logistics type uses to the south. This is a conventional rezoning petition. There's not an associated site plan and would permit any uses allowed in the respective TOD districts. Approval of this petition would revise the recommended place type from M&L to Community Activity Center. Staff recommends approval of this petition. Happy to take any questions after Mr. Brown's presentation.
Thank you very much. Mr. Brown, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Council members, Colin Brown on behalf of the petitioner. Good overview by Max, because this is a conventional petition. I don't have a great deal of detail to go through. I can say, we did host a community meeting and shared with the community. This is a family that has owned this property for many years. They're looking to the future of the property. There's not an immediate development plan. So, I can't say, okay, here's where we're going. They're just trying to figure out the future of the property. And as Max mentioned, the current zoning calls for heavier industrial type uses. This is in close proximity to TOD. It would seem like a TOD use is a better fit. So we're proposing that so they can plan going forward. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments from the council?
Move to close.
Second.
There's been a motion that's been made and properly seconded. Any discussion of that motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed, please raise your hand. Seeing none, that is unanimously closed. We'll move on to agenda item number 38, rezoning petition 2023-063 by BMPI-EM 801 LLC, located on approximately .99 acres at the southeast intersection of East Moorhead Street and Royal Court, west of Interstate 277, and north of South McDowell Street in Council District 1, Ms. Anderson's district. The current zoning is NC Neighborhood Center, and the proposed zoning is Uptown Edge. Staff recommends approval of this petition. There are no speakers in opposition, so after staff's presentation, the petitioner will have 3 minutes.
Thank you. This site is just under an acre at the intersection of East Moorhead and Royal Court. And as you can see on the aerial image on that next slide, it has close proximity to the ongoing Pearl redevelopment project as well as other projects in that area. The parcel is currently zoned NC Neighborhood Center, and that's a reflection of the previous pedestrian overlay that was on the site and the surrounding area. So the B1 zoning designation previously on the site to June 1st, because of that pedestrian overlay, automatically translated to NC. And they are requesting to go to UE, Uptown Edge. The application of the Uptown Edge district is intended for areas such as this, which transitions the high-intensity environment of the Uptown core into the less dense mixed-use areas along Moorhead Street and the surrounding Dealworth neighborhood. The request for Uptown Edge is consistent with the policy map's recommendation for a regional activity center. And this is a conventional petition, so there is no associated site plan. Staff recommends approval of this petition, given that it is consistent with the policy map. The district maintains high design and pedestrian standards for the UE district, and the UE district would entitle development at a comparable scale to the adjacent projects that are underway. And I'll take any questions after the petitioner's presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. You have 3 minutes.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Colin Brown again on behalf of the petitioner. Beacon, Mike Farrell is with me tonight if you have questions, but Holly's given a great overview. She's exactly right. This is a conventional petition, so we don't have specific details to share. It is consistent with the 2040 plan and consistent with other zoning and development we're seeing in the area. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments from the council?
Close.
Motion to close?
The motion has been made and properly seconded. Do we have any discussions? Questions to that motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed, please raise your hand. That is unanimous to close the public hearing. We will move on to our final hearing of the night, agenda item number 39, rezoning petition 2023-065 by ATC Properties and Management, LLC, located on approximately 3.89 acres at the southeast intersection of Statesville Avenue and Sylvania Avenue, west of North Graham Street in Council District 1, Ms. Anderson's district. This current zoning is ML2, Manufacturing Logistics 2, and the proposed zoning is CAC 2, Community Activity Center 2. Staff recommends approval of this petition. There are no speakers against, so after staff's presentation, the petitioner will have 3 minutes.
Thank you. This site is a little under 4 acres, located just south of Camp North End along the east side of Statesville Avenue. And as you can see on the aerial image, most of that immediate area is houses, industrial uses, and there are several projects such as Camp North End being the largest that are converting those structures to activity center-friendly projects that serve as a hub of activity in that changing community. The parcel is currently zoned manufacturing and logistics 2, and it is requesting CAC 2, Community Activity Center 2. And I'll just note that this is part of the North Graham, North Tryon Street corridor of opportunity, and the corridors program aims to revitalize areas with a mix of uses that service those surrounding communities. So this rezoning that would shift it away from industrial uses to instead to a district that allows a number of uses that could be utilized by the neighbors aligns with those goals of the corridors of opportunity. The request for CAC 2 is consistent with the policy map recommendation for Community Activity Center, and this is a conventional petition, so there is no associated site plan. Staff recommends approval of this petition given the consistency with the policy map and the redevelopment trends in the broader area that are shifting away from industrial uses and to entitlements that allow a range of commercial office, and residential uses. And I'll take any questions after the petitioner's presentation.
Very much, Ms. McVeigh, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. Good evening. Keith McVeigh with Moore Van Allen. Bridget Grant of our firm and I are assisting ATCO with this rezoning petition. With me tonight representing ATCO is Tommy Mann. Holly, I think, has covered this request completely or concisely, consistent with the area plan and recommendation for Community Activity Center. Also supports the vision for the corridors of opportunity by eliminating industrial zoning and coming back with a more appropriate CAC2 zoning, consistent with what Camp North End has been doing in the area. We're happy to answer questions.
Any questions or comments from the council?
Motion to close.
Second.
The motion has been made and properly second to close the public hearing. Any comments, questions on that? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed, please raise your hand. That is unanimous to close the public hearing.
Motion to adjourn.
I will recognize Ms. Mayfield before we adjourn.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I did want to just say a thank you to Tim Hagler and a congratulations, because Charlotte was one of the cities chosen for, in partnership with Camino, which is doing a lot of outreach to our growing Latino community. My colleague, Councilmember Wallington, as well as Representative Susan Rodriguez McDowell and our state representative Diamond were at an event yesterday at Concord Motor Speedway, hence my El Futuro es Latino, the future is Latin t-shirt on. So I want to congratulate them and look forward to hearing what Camino is doing in our community. We're building relationships in our religious community, because overwhelmingly, number one, the Latino community utilizes the religious institutions for assistance and guidance. So look forward to seeing how we can partner with the city of Charlotte. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you very much.
Motion to close.
Second. Motion made, properly second. All in favor, leave.
Do it. Great job, Mayor Pro Tem.